guys, my name is Emma and today I have another book haul for you, but this time it's just going to be my ebooks. So I posted a book haul a little while back now, a few videos back, and I mentioned in it that I bought a ton of ebooks recently, and I talked about maybe doing an ebook haul, and I'm finally getting around to sitting down and filming that, because since that video I bought even more ebooks. Yay. Well done, Emma. That is dangerous late at night, being able to just sit on your Kindle and be like, bye, 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 bye. So I thought I'd kind of share with you some books that I've got on my e-reader floating around. This is not all of the unread ebooks that I have on my e-reader. This is just ones that I bought beginning of May to now kind of thing. There are a few still floating around on here, which you guys have heard about before, were potentially in the previous haul, that kind of thing. The first one I want to talk about is I bought The Future Home of the Living God by Louise Erdrich. I know that this is a speculative fiction specifically looking at women's reproductive rights. I cannot remember any more than that. I think it is similar to potentially like Red Clocks and The Power and Vox and things like that. I've also got On Managing People, which is like a Harvard book that was specifically requested that my boss, that I read it from my boss. I started a new job only a couple of months back, and I am now in more of a management-y role than I've ever been in before, and my boss and another guy at work who is just above me are both reading it as well, and I think potentially a couple other people in the company, so I just need to get around to it, but seems quite boring, I'm not gonna lie. Then I bought two books from Charlie N. Holmberg, who is the person who wrote the Paper Magician series that I read back in September last year. It's a really, really fun YA like fantasy series, or more urban fantasies based in kind of Victorian England, sort of. They had a bit of a sale going on Amazon for their work, and there were two books that are in like a new series. So one of them is Magic Bitter, Magic Sweet, and the other one is Smoke and Summons. I don't know which way around they go. I also don't know anything about them, but the Paper Magician series was so much fun, really enjoyable read, and also really easy read. So I figured like I might as well pick them up. I'm sure I'm going to enjoy them, and they're really good for when you want that quick, easy, chill kind of read. Then what else did I buy? I bought The Quiet at the End of the World by Lauren James. This is a dystopian fiction to do with, again, I think people not being able to give birth anymore, and it follows two young children. It's on my TBR for this month. My rabbits picked it for me. I'll link that video down below if I remember. Do I ever remember to link the videos down below? Probably not. But yeah, I can't really remember a crazy amount about it, unfortunately. Then I have Toxic by Lydia Kang, and this is a sci-fi book where there's this young girl who isn't supposed to exist. She was born in secret on a spaceship, but then all of the people on that spaceship disappear, and it's about her struggle to live. And then I think a boy who potentially is on like a salvage ship or something like that ends up knowing that she's alive, and it's kind of like their race to save her. I'm pretty sure it's that kind of vibe. I'm kind of getting like a Wayfarer series vibe from it, maybe a bit of a Firefly kind of vibe, so I'm really keen to get to that one quite soon. I've also got Severance by Ling Ma, and this is another dystopian fiction. There is a lot of dystopian fiction on my e-reader right now. So this one is quite exciting. It's got a Chinese main character, and it's about a biblical plague that takes over, and then it's about like her quest for survival with a band of other survivors, and we kind of get more of kind of a group mentality, survivalist, Walking with Dead without the zombies kind of vibe to it. I've heard really good things about it. It's supposed to be quite short as well. It's one of these ones that's been like on my Goodreads want to read for literally a year now, and it's just time that I own it so that I actually have a chance to read it. God knows when I'm going to get around to actually reading it. Then I picked up, I put out a video a while back of like other authors that I wanted to revisit, and I wanted to like read more of their work by, and one of them is this woman called Natasha Mustert. She wrote Seasons of the Witch, which is one of my all-time favourite books. It's wonderful. It is magical thriller at its finest, but I figured it was that time that I picked up another one of her books, because again, if it isn't on my shelf, I'm not going to read it, so I kind of need to own it, you know, or go to a library and remember to request it. Let's be honest, I could do that too. But so I picked up her one, Windwalker. I know literally zero about this beyond it is by Natasha Mustert, and it had the coolest cover of all the ones, and it was the cheapest one of hers on the Kindle store. That's all. That's all I'm going into with it. I went through a little bit of a buying books that I already own on my shelves, and also buying ebooks of classics, like classical authors that I now want to read more of, and that was kind of the latest sort of buzz that I did. So I picked up Vanity Fair, War and Peace, and Lincoln and the Bardo, all of which I already physically own on my shelf, but I'm not getting around to reading because either like the book is too bulky in the case of War and Peace, or I'm just like a bit intimidated by it, or it's a hardback, or whatever the reason. I figured like if I owned them in ebook form as well, I really like reading my e-reader on the way to work, I'm more likely to get around to them, so that's kind of the logic to that. I also picked up the complete collection of George Orwell's novels. I've read 1984 and Animal Farm within the past like 12 months. Animal Farm very recently, 1984 back in September. Love his writing style, but would really like to check out some more of his work that isn't like the big famous one where I already know the hook going in, to kind of be able to enjoy his plot a bit more, because it's very hard to judge a book when you know so much about it, because it's part of the like canon of literature. Having said that, I didn't really know where to start with Orwell, so I picked up his entire collection for like 79p, which is exactly why we love the Kindle store, and then basically I figure I've got the whole collection, I can jump into something as and when I want to, and if I want to buy a physical copy of anything, I can after enjoying it. Also, do we like the fact that I can like hold this with an open hand? This is why I love walking to work with this, because I can just like, with the elastic round, just kind of stick it on my hand and talk with it. This is helpful. Anyway, back to the haul. A bunch more classics books for you that I picked up. I've got 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Around the World in 80 Days, and Journey to the Centre of the Earth by Jules Verne. I have them all in a beautiful big binder by the Everyman's Library Classics edition, but that is too pretty to take to work with me. Like, it's too pretty to sit in the bottom of my bag and run the risk of my lunch leaking on it. Not gonna happen. So I bought the e-versions of all of those separately so that I have a stronger chance of actually getting around to reading them. And on a similar mentality, I have H.G. Wells' The Invisible Man, The Island of Dr. Morano, and The War of the Worlds, because again, I figure if I own them in ebook form, I'm more likely to get to them. I definitely have The Invisible Man on my shelves. I might have War of the Worlds as well, I'm not too sure, but I'm really enjoying like doing a bit of an old school classic sci-fi kick at the moment, and like old school classic genre fiction in general. Like, I've read some H.G. Wells recently. I am on like a Lord of the Rings kick at the moment. I'm really enjoying it, so I figure like having it again in ebook form, they're so cheap because they've been out of print for such a long time, or like out of copyright for such a long time, and I just think that they're a really great way of getting into classics, because you're not making a massive financial commitment like you are with some of the prettier editions out there. It's just like super cheap, under £1, have it on your ebook, nice and chill. A historical fiction that I have, it's called Enchanté by is that Gita Trelez? I'm gonna go with that. You're probably French and I butchered that accent, but this is a beautifully compelling tale of magic, intrigue and deception set against the backdrop of 18th century Paris on the cusp of revolution. That's all I really needed to know was magic and Paris and revolution. I really enjoy historical fiction. I really enjoy historical fiction with a magical twist. I've not read a crazy amount set in France. I'm here for it. I'm down. I'm psyched. Let's do this. That sounds great. I also got The Age of Miracles by Karen Thompson Walker. Now, she's got a new one out recently called The Dreamers, which is about people falling asleep and then not being able to wake back up, and that one looks really, really cool. But this one was actually recommended in a video by Ink Not Blood, and if I could remember the video, I'd link it down below. I've no idea which one it was, but this is about what if our 24-hour day got a little bit longer by like a few seconds, minutes, and then hours, and then it just becomes longer and longer and longer. And I think it's the like ramifications of that, how that happens, and like how our concept of time impacts things. Again, it's that kind of like slightly speculative fiction, maybe got a bit of a potential dystopian, how's this going to impact our society vibe. I really was on like a big speculative fiction kick when I was last buying a bunch of things on my e-reader, so that comes from that. So the final one is The Catalogue of Shipwrecked Books by Edward Wilson Lee. This is a non-fiction. It's the only non-fiction I have on here other than the On Managing People book. I really need to get some more non-fiction on my e-reader, because again, it means I'm slightly more likely to read it on the walk to work, which is awesome. And I just like having options, you know, in these different formats. But non-fiction is expensive in ebook form, just so much more than fiction and classics, and it seems to rarely ever go on sale, which is very frustrating. But this one in particular is about Christopher Columbus's illegitimate son Hernando, who likes to steal books. I mean, do we need to go into any more detail? Basically, it's a wholly true story where he managed to create a universal library after exploring the world. He basically like stole a copy of every book that he saw and had a giant library, and then I think it got shipwrecked and buried at the bottom of the sea, I think is the vibe from the title. So I think that would be fun, or is a catalogue of books that he found when they were shipwrecked. I'm not too sure yet, but I like books about books. I like non-fiction. This has been on my list for a while, so now it's on my e-reader. Woohoo! That's not strictly a complete list of the books I bought recently, because it basically just doesn't include any that I've already read. I don't generally massively like to include books that I've already read in book hauls, even if I haven't technically shown you it in a haul since buying it before reading it, if that made any sense, because I figure like you get to see them then in TBRs and in wrap-ups as well. For me, the purpose of a book haul is to alert you to things that has like recently joined my to be read list that I physically own, has joined my shelves, whether that be in like digital or physical format, that will maybe be on the horizons in the future that I haven't talked about already. I feel like if I've already read it in that time between buying it and doing another book haul, then that shows that I was super psyched about it, so you've heard about it already. Whereas these ones are like, honestly, some of them can end up sitting for a really long time. That's totally cool, but that's why I really like book hauls, and that's why I would like to watch other people's book hauls, is because I feel like it gives you a really interesting glimpse into like somebody's long-term reading plans, rather than the kind of stuff that you see in like a wrap-up TBR regular basis. There's just me dissecting the purpose of book hauls for you, casually at the end there. I'm gonna go cuddle my bunnies now. I'm sat on the floor, because I can't be arsed today. So yeah, I'm gonna go cuddle my rabbits. You have a wonderful reading week, whoever you are. Bye guys.